The world erupted in a single heartbeat, and Michael said, "They turned me into a monster overnight." Screens across the city blazed with his face, headlines screaming betrayal, hashtags tearing apart everything he had built. He scrolled, hands shaking, while strangers cursed his name with venom. "Sarah," said Michael, "you need to breathe," but her voice cracked, powerless against the roar of the mob. Every notification on his phone was another dagger, another accusation, another lie. David whispered, "This is spiraling too fast," but no one could slow it down. The crowd outside grew louder, voices merging into a chant that felt like judgment carved into his soul. In the shadows, Emily watched the chaos unfold with cold satisfaction, her lips curling into a smile that never reached her eyes. Michael said, "Why are they doing this? What did I ever do to deserve it?" His breath hitched as the walls closed in tighter. A single post had ignited a storm, and now there was no escape. The sound of his heart hammered louder than the shouts outside, each beat echoing a truth he feared. This was only the beginning. Michael said, "They don't even know me, yet they call me a monster." His words cracked as Sarah whispered, "It spreads faster than truth ever could." David said, "They're not looking for truth, they're looking for blood." The sound of the crowd outside grew louder, their chants echoing like a war drum, while headlines splashed across the TV screen, calling Michael a fraud, a liar, a manipulator. Emily sat elsewhere, laughing as she refreshed her feed, watching the chaos she had sparked grow beyond her control. Michael's hands trembled as he whispered, "This isn't real. It can't be real." But the truth was undeniable. He was already guilty in their eyes. The mob outside roared louder, their chants twisting Michael's name into venom. Sarah said, "Don't look out there, it will destroy you," but Michael's eyes drifted toward the window anyway. David said, "They're feeding on your silence." Michael whispered, "Every second I stay quiet, I'm already losing." Emily refreshed her feed, dropping another subtle post, fanning the fire further. The city lights outside flickered against the apartment walls, as if the world itself was closing in on him. Michael said, "They're tearing me apart, and no one even asks if it's true." Sarah whispered, "They don't care about truth, only spectacle." David said, "It's survival for them, not justice." Emily leaned back in her chair, typing with calculated precision, each word slicing deeper into Michael's life. The crowd outside stomped rhythmically, the sound vibrating through the floorboards, making Michael clutch his head. Michael whispered, "This is my end." Sarah said, "No, we will find a way." David muttered, "If we don't act now, it will swallow us whole." Emily's smirk grew as she leaned into her camera, ready to release another post. The chant outside reached a fever pitch, shaking the glass of the apartment windows. Michael's eyes filled with tears, his voice trembling, "I never thought family would be the one to hand me to the mob." The silence of memory cut sharper than the mob's noise, pulling Michael back to when life still felt whole. Michael said, "I used to believe every step I took was toward something greater." He remembered standing on stage years earlier, the lights warm on his face, the applause filling him with hope. Sarah whispered, "That was you, the dreamer they admired, the man who wanted nothing but to inspire." David muttered, "You gave them something real, and now they spit it back like poison." Michael's heart ached as he remembered laughter over coffee shops, handshakes with fans, nights when his phone buzzed only with love. Emily's envy lingered in shadows even then, her smile never fully reaching her eyes. Michael whispered, "How did admiration turn into hate so fast?" The warmth of the past collided violently with the cold of the present, and the contrast felt unbearable. The mob screamed outside his window, but inside his head was the echo of cheers that once gave him wings. At a wooden dinner table years earlier, the family gathered in warmth, laughter echoing between candlelight and the smell of roasted food. Michael said, "One day, we'll all look back and smile at how far we've come." Sarah raised her glass, saying, "To dreams that lift us higher than fear." David chuckled, "And to loyalty that keeps us grounded when storms rise." Emily leaned in, her smile sweet, but her eyes sharp, and said, "As long as everyone remembers who they can thank for their success." Michael brushed her words off, thinking it playful, but the edge lingered in the air like smoke. Sarah caught the tension but stayed quiet, choosing to protect the mood. Michael's chest swelled with hope in that moment, unaware that the seeds of envy were already planted. On a quiet night long before scandal, Michael confided in Sarah while walking through a park lit by street lamps. Michael said, "I want to change lives, not just chase applause." Sarah squeezed his hand, whispering, "You already have, you just don't see it yet." Michael's face softened, humbled by her faith. David, walking a few paces behind, said, "You've always carried more weight than you should, brother, but I'll help you carry it." Michael's laughter was light, filled with gratitude, but Emily's silence behind them was heavy, her eyes burning with unspoken resentment. She walked slower, staring at the ground as the other's bond pushed her further to the edges. Michael whispered, "As long as you're with me, I'll never fall." He didn't know those words would one day cut Sarah deeper than any mob's chant. In a memory framed with tension, Michael and Emily sat side by side, their sibling rivalry flickering like sparks. Michael said, "There's enough room for all of us to shine." Emily smirked, "Easy for you to say when the light always finds you." David tried to diffuse it, saying, "We don't need to compete, we're family," but the strain was thick. Sarah said softly, "Emily, he's not against you, he's with you." Emily leaned back, her smile brittle, her eyes cold with envy. Michael chuckled awkwardly, thinking it would fade, but the words carved scars invisible in that moment. The silence after was louder than any fight, an unspoken declaration that jealousy had already rooted itself deep. The final memory before everything collapsed was one of blind trust. Michael stood in front of Emily saying, "I'll always believe you have my back." She smiled faintly, replying, "Of course, I'd never let anyone harm you." Sarah turned away, sensing unease she couldn't explain, while David muttered, "Words are easy, proof is harder." Michael's heart was too open, too ready to trust, blind to the storm Emily was quietly preparing. He leaned in to hug her, and for a brief second she softened, but her eyes flickered with something darker when no one else looked. Michael whispered, "We'll rise together." In truth, only one of them meant it. The collapse began with cold precision as sponsors fled like rats from a sinking ship. Michael said, "They didn't even ask me what's true, they just left." Sarah whispered, "Their loyalty was always for sale." David muttered, "Money listens to outrage more than truth." Emails piled up on Michael's laptop, contracts severed with apologies that felt like knives. He slammed his fist against the desk, shouting, "I gave them years of work, and they toss me away in hours." Sarah placed her hand over his, but her touch trembled with helplessness. Outside, the mob's chants grew louder, fueled by brands desperate to protect themselves. Emily scrolled gleefully through headlines announcing Michael's sponsors abandoning him, her smirk widening with each blow. Michael whispered, "It's like my entire world is erasing me piece by piece." The sound of applause in his memories was now drowned beneath the jeers of a crowd, hungry for his ruin. The betrayal deepened as silence wrapped around him like a noose. Michael said, "My friends won't even return a single call." Sarah whispered, "Fear makes them cowards." David growled, "They care more about their image than your truth." Notifications lit his phone, but none were voices he once trusted. He scrolled through old messages, filled with warmth and laughter, now left unanswered. Emily sat with her phone, sending subtle whispers into the digital fire, ensuring his allies stayed away. Michael said, "They've erased me from their lives like I never mattered." Sarah pulled him close, whispering, "You still matter, even if they've forgotten." But her words trembled against the heavy silence that pressed in, as the storm outside screamed louder than any friend who stayed. The silence of his own blood carved deeper than any stranger's rage. Michael whispered, "Why hasn't Daniel said anything? He's my brother." Sarah's face fell as she said, "Some people protect themselves before protecting you." David muttered, "Silence can be the loudest betrayal." Michael replayed old memories of Daniel cheering for him, now replaced with void. News anchors speculated on family disapproval, flashing Daniel's image while Michael crumbled inside. Emily smiled coldly, knowing Daniel's silence gave her storm more fuel. Michael said, "He doesn't even have to defend me, just say I'm not the monster they call me." But the only answer was the pounding chant of the mob outside, drowning the voice he needed most. Even those who smiled beside him now quietly carved his downfall. Michael said, "I thought Lisa cared, but she's feeding them." Sarah whispered, "She always wanted your place." David growled, "She thrives in the shadows of your ruin." Screens lit up with leaked messages, all traced to Lisa, who smiled in public but whispered poison in private. Michael slammed his phone down, saying, "She wore the mask of a friend while sharpening the blade." Sarah tried to steady him, but her voice faltered as the mob's fury grew. Emily laughed softly, knowing Lisa's betrayal cleared her path. Michael whispered, "Even those I trusted, most are the ones who cut me deepest." The storm of betrayal spiraled until every corner of his life felt poisoned. The spiral reached deeper as old wounds were ripped open for the mob to devour. Michael whispered, "They're digging through every mistake I ever made." Sarah said, "They twist your flaws into weapons." David muttered, "They want you broken beyond repair." Headlines resurfaced forgotten posts, painting Michael as a villain before the world. Sarah's tears fell as she said, "They don't want truth, they want a corpse to bury." Michael slammed his laptop shut, voice trembling. "I can't fight ghosts of my past while they invent new sins for me." Emily watched with satisfaction as her plan tightened around him, every old scar now reborn as evidence. Michael whispered, "It's like I'm drowning in a storm that has no end." The storm outside became flesh as Michael stepped into the streets, his hood pulled low, but the mob still recognized him. Michael whispered, "I just needed air, not fire." Sarah begged, "Please, go back inside, they'll tear you apart." David muttered, "Let them see the man, not the monster." The crowd roared, their chants hitting like stones, some throwing insults, others throwing bottles. On camera caught every second, feeding the internet like blood to sharks. Emily watched from afar, lips curled as her plot unfolded perfectly. Michael's voice cracked, "They look at me like I'm a criminal." Sarah's tears blurred her sight as she shielded him, whispering, "You're still you, even if they don't see it." The chant grew louder, "Liar, liar," drowning his every breath. Sarah stood before cameras, trembling but unbroken, saying, "Michael is not the monster you paint him as. He is a man betrayed by lies." Michael whispered behind her, "You don't have to do this." David said firmly, "She does, because silence is death." Reporters hurled questions, twisting her words, eager to shred her courage. Sarah's eyes shone with tears, but her voice rose stronger. "He deserves to be heard, not crucified by hashtags." Michael's heart ached at her bravery, but the crowd jeered louder, mocking her devotion. Emily typed furiously, fueling more venom online. Sarah's final words cracked, "If you bury him, you bury truth itself." Cameras flashed, immortalizing her defiance. Lisa's mask slipped as she accepted attention, smiling for cameras while quietly climbing higher. Michael muttered, "She's thriving while I'm bleeding." Sarah said, "She feeds on the fire she helped start." David clenched his fists, whispering, "She's nothing without your ruin." Lisa posed for pictures, praised as brave for distancing herself, her career rising from Michael's ashes. Headlines framed her as the victim, her crocodile tears winning sympathy. Emily leaned back, satisfied, her strings tugging the stage perfectly. Michael whispered, "I made her, and now she devours me." The world clapped for her while Michael sank deeper, the betrayal sharper than any blade. News cameras turned toward Daniel, Michael's brother, hoping for defense, but he stayed silent. Reporters asked, "Will you stand with him?" Daniel lowered his eyes, muttering nothing. Michael whispered, "Say something, please." Sarah gripped his arm, whispering, "Your silence hurts more than their screams." David muttered, "He's protecting himself, not you." The silence stretched heavy, Microphones waiting, but Daniel's lips never parted. Headlines blared, "Family abandons fallen star." Emily's smirk deepened, knowing this silence cemented Michael's ruin. Michael whispered, "If even my blood won't defend me, what hope do I have?" Emily played her hand with perfect venom, crafting a narrative that painted her as victim. Michael muttered, "She turned my blood into her crown." Sarah said, "She twists pain into sympathy." David growled, "She plays the victim while holding the knife." Emily went live, tears glistening as she told millions, "I only wanted to protect everyone from Michael's lies." Crowds wept for her, blind to her manipulation. Michael slammed his fists on the table, whispering, "She's not saving them, she's destroying me." Sarah sobbed quietly, whispering, "The world believes her mask." David muttered, "But masks crack when the truth comes." For now, Emily basked in her role as saint, while Michael sank deeper into ruin. In the darkest moment, a forgotten voice emerged, an outsider who had seen too much. Jacob said, "I was there the night it all began, and it wasn't Michael who lied." Michael lifted his head, eyes wide, whispering, "Who are you?" Sarah clutched his arm, murmuring, "Finally, someone speaks truth." David muttered, "The question is, will they listen?" Jacob's voice was steady, burdened with guilt. "I saw the posts being crafted, the rumors planted, and it wasn't him." Emily froze, her hand hovering above her phone, her smirk faltering for the first time. Michael whispered, "Why now?" Jacob's eyes darkened, "Because silence is killing me more than it's killing you." The revelation cracked the mob's certainty, a seed of doubt planted. Jacob leaned closer, voice cutting through noise. Emily was behind it. She fed the mob with lies. Michael's body trembled, whispering, "My own sister." Sarah gasped. It was jealousy all along. David muttered, "I always knew her silence was poison." Emily's mask slipped, her face hardening as cameras caught the tension. Jacob said, "She wanted your fall so she could rise." Michael's eyes filled with tears, his voice breaking, "I trusted you." Emily smirked faintly, whispering, "And that's why it worked." The crowd shifted uneasily, uncertainty flickering across their faces. The storm that once seemed unstoppable now cracked with doubt. Evidence spilled into light as Jacob held up screenshots and recordings. Jacob said, "These are her words, her lies." Michael gasped, "You saved everything?" Sarah whispered, "This could change everything." David muttered, "Truth has claws when timed right." Emily snarled, "You think proof matters? They already chose me." But the crowd leaned closer, their anger faltering. Headlines blinked across screens, "Fabrication exposed." Michael whispered, "The world can see me now, not their monster." Sarah clung to him, whispering, "It's not over, but hope is breathing again." Emily's face twisted with panic, a crack in her flawless facade. Whispers swept the mob like wildfire, uncertainty breaking their chant. Sarah said, "They see it now. They see you weren't the villain." Michael whispered, "But will they forgive?" David muttered, "Forgiveness is luxury. Survival is victory." Jacob stepped forward, voice steady. The truth was buried, but now it stands. Emily screamed, "You all loved me," until he cried, "Wolf." Her desperation cracked, exposing the hunger beneath her lies. Michael stared at her, whispering, "You destroyed me for attention." The crowd's faces shifted from rage to doubt, their voices splintered, no longer one chorus but fractured noise. The storm was still fierce, but its direction had changed. The final blow of revelation shattered illusions. Michael said, "The mob didn't cancel me, you did, Emily." Sarah whispered, "She burned family for fame." David muttered, "Her crown is forged in betrayal." Emily's eyes blazed, shouting, "I was tired of being in your shadow." The crowd gasped, the mask fully gone, her confession undeniable. Jacob said quietly, "The truth always waits for its hour." Michael's tears fell, whispering, "I would have shared the light with you." Sarah sobbed, "But she wanted it all." The mob's roar shifted into silence, the sound of judgment now on Emily instead. For the first time, Michael's breath came free, though broken. The confrontation erupted in raw fury. As Michael stood before Emily, the air electric with betrayal. Michael shouted, "You poisoned the world against me. Why?" Emily screamed back, "Because I was invisible in your shadow." Sarah cried, "You destroyed him for your vanity." David's fists clenched, his voice sharp, "You broke family for applause." Emily's tears blurred with rage as she spat. "I wanted to be seen, to matter more than his perfect image." Michael's voice cracked. "I would have shared everything you never had to steal." The crowd gasped at her confession, the storm center finally exposed. Emily's mask shattered, her ambition naked before the world. Michael broke down before millions, the mob watching through glowing screens. Michael whispered, "You've taken everything, my name, my friends, my blood." Sarah held him, crying, "They cannot take your soul." David said firmly, "Stand now or you will never rise again." Michael's knees buckled, his sobs raw, unfiltered, broadcast live to strangers who devoured his pain. Emily sneered, "They love watching you break, it's the only truth they crave." Michael looked up through tears, whispering, "Then let them see me, the man, not their monster." His vulnerability turned viral, the world unable to look away. David finally stepped forward, his voice steady against chaos. David said, "I will not let you erase him." The mob jeered, some laughing, others filming, but he held his ground. Sarah whispered, "They will tear you down too." David answered, "Then I fall beside truth, not lies." His loyalty burned like a beacon in the storm, his defiance drawing silence from some. Michael whispered, "You shouldn't sacrifice yourself for me." David said firmly, "That's what brothers do." His words pierced deeper than the crowd's chants, his courage carving light in a night built from shadows. The final truth could no longer be buried as Jacob stepped forward. Jacob said, "I stayed silent too long, but the world must know." He revealed files, messages, and recordings, proof of Emily's manipulations. Sarah gasped, "This is undeniable." Michael whispered, "You've carried this all along." Jacob's voice shook, "I was afraid, but fear destroys more than lies ever could." Emily screamed, "They'll still choose me." But her words drowned beneath the weight of evidence projected on massive screens. David muttered, "The storm just turned on its master." The mob fell into stunned silence as truth lit the night. The mob turned, their chants now knives for Emily. Michael whispered, "They see you now, not me." Emily's face twisted as the crowd shouted, "Liar!" Sarah sobbed, "Justice finally breathes." David said firmly, "Your reign ends tonight." Jacob whispered, "The truth was late, but it came." Emily screamed, "You all fed on my pain, and now you spit me out." Michael's voice broke, "You didn't need to destroy me to be seen." The roar of the mob swallowed her cries, the tide reversed. For the first time, Michael stood not as the villain, but as the survivor of betrayal. The storm finally eased, leaving silence heavier than noise. Michael whispered, "Do I fight for redemption or walk away?" Sarah said softly, "You've survived, but survival isn't living." David muttered, "The mob may move on, but scars remain." Jacob's eyes lowered. "Truth doesn't erase wounds. It only stops the bleeding." Michael stared at the wet streets glistening under neon light, the weight of choice pressing on his chest. The crowd dispersed slowly, some still uncertain, others ashamed, but all leaving behind the echoes of their cruelty. Emily sat crumpled on the pavement, her cries unheard now that the mob turned away. Michael whispered, "They wanted to bury me, but I'm still standing." Sarah held his arm, whispering, "Then decide what you'll stand for next." Guilt weighed heavy on Daniel's face as he approached, the silence between brothers more painful than words. Michael whispered, "You left me when I needed you most." Daniel's voice cracked, "I was afraid of falling with you." Sarah said softly, Fear can kill more than lies. David muttered, cowardice is betrayal dressed as caution. Daniel's eyes watered, whispering, I didn't defend you, but I can beg forgiveness. Michael turned his face away, whispering, forgiveness is not a gift I can give today. The wound of silence cut deeper than hate, leaving Daniel's apology hanging in the night air like smoke. Justice turned its gaze on Emily at last. Police lights flashed red and blue across her pale face as officers approached. Emily screamed, you loved my story until it didn't serve you. Michael whispered, you burned everything just to be seen. Sarah sobbed quietly, fame built from ruin cannot last. David muttered, every empire built on lies collapses. Jacob said firmly, the evidence is there, her crown is ash now. Emily fought against the officers, her screams echoing as the mob watched silently. Michael's eyes fell, whispering, you were my sister, but you chose destruction over love. The handcuffs closed with finality, her kingdom ending in shame. The world slowly moved on, but Michael remained caught between ruins and rebirth. Michael whispered, they will forget my name tomorrow, but I will carry the scars forever. Sarah said, scars are proof you survive. David muttered, strength is forged in fire, and you've lived through hell. Jacob added, the truth is yours to guard now, not theirs to twist. Daniel whispered, I failed you, but I will spend my life proving I can stand beside you again. Michael looked at the skyline glowing against the wet night, whispering, I'm not their monster anymore, but I'm no longer who I was. His reflection in the glass stared back, older, broken, but unbroken still. The final silence carried the heaviest weight. Michael whispered, cancel me, betray me, erase me, but I will not vanish. Sarah said softly, the world may forget, but I will never. David muttered, we stood in the storm and lived. Jacob whispered, truth cut through the noise, but scars remain eternal. Daniel's voice cracked, I cannot undo my silence, but I will bear its shame. Emily's cries faded into the distance, swallowed by her own ruin. Michael raised his head to the dawn, whispering the words that would haunt those who once chanted his downfall. You killed the man you created, but you'll never bury the truth. The echo lingered, sharp as a knife, unforgettable as thunder.